and I'm just sick of seeing him. I know he says he's going to retire. Someone needs to grab that little elf and chuck him across the Potomac.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Ron DeSantis just went scorched earth on Dr. Fauci, okay? As Fauci is trying to sneak out the back door, as the writing is on the wall, okay? The GOP more than likely is going to take back the House, maybe even the Senate after the midterms, and Fauci, coincidentally, decides that, you know what, I think it's time to retire. Right? I think it's time for me to go because Republicans are promising that they're going to investigate Fauci, okay? They're going to have committee hearings, hopefully, January 6th style hearings on Fauci and how the pandemic was handled. And that can go as far as to investigate things like the lab leak theory, okay? Make Fauci answer more questions about whether or not, this is something that was taxpayer funded. Were we funding gain of function research in China? Okay. It can include all types of things because during this pandemic, this guy was basically all powerful. Okay. He was responsible for failed public health policies that resulted in people losing their livelihoods, like mask mandates, shutting down businesses, okay, vaccine mandates, a bunch of things that I think we can objectively look back at now and say, they were kind of failures, right? There was a whole lot of shoddy science, okay, things that were pushed on the American people based off science that was not complete at the time, right? A lot of fear mongering, okay, irrational decisions. Again, this guy was at the top of it, and it resulted in this country going into much more debt that is unsustainable, okay, and a massive transfer of wealth from middle class citizens like me and you, working people, working taxpayers, hardworking taxpayers, to the rich, right? Mainly these pharmaceutical companies, okay? And I think the American people deserve answers on this stuff, right? So the GOP allegedly is going to investigate them if/when they take back the House, maybe even the Senate after the midterm. So Fauci's on the way out, okay? And on the way out, of course, unsurprisingly, he's not taking responsibility for these policies that have ruined the lives of American people and have resulted in our country going into a massive amount of debt. Take a look.
You had said a number of times, Doctor, on this show as well, that your response to COVID might not have been perfect, but it was in the times and the fast moments in which you lived and were making those decisions. So looking back at some of those decisions, including masks, you were first opposed to them, then you embraced them, the severity of the epidemic itself and completely shutting down virtually the entire American economy. Do you regret particularly the last one, the shutdown, the sweeping shutdown that some said made things worse?
No, I don't, Neil. And in fact, I think we need to make sure that your listeners understand I didn't shut down anything. There was a lot of consideration among the White House task force that we were reaching a point where the hospitals, such as in New York City and other places, were being strained to the point of practically being overwhelmed. And when Dr. Birx and I came with the proposal that we take 15 days to essentially get to the point where we slow, if not shut some things down, not completely, and the record will show, Neil, that we didn't recommend shutting everything down. We wanted to cause a pause, to remember the terminology, to flatten the curve.
But in retrospect, Doctor, do you regret that it went too far? Whatever your original intentions were, and it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback here, but that it went too far, that particularly for kids who couldn't go to school except remotely, that it's forever damaged them.
Well, I don't think it's forever irreparably damaged anyone, but I think obviously, and if you go back and people selectively, Neil, pull things out about me, I was also one of the people that said we've got to do everything we can to get the children back in school. Go back to some of the clips that you and I had on your own show when I've said that it's very important that we protect the children from the collateral effects of keeping them out of school.
Wow, talk about a guy who refuses to take responsibility for something that he definitely advocated for, right? He definitely advocated for shutting down the country, okay? Mask mandates in schools, having kids do remote learning. He's definitely responsible for the irreparable damage that have been done to this country. But according to him, I didn't shut down anything. There was no irreparable damage done to anybody, right? None whatsoever. Okay, I'm retiring. I take no responsibility. Don't blame me. Wow, incredible stuff. Kudos to Neil Cavuto there for actually asking some tough questions of Fauci. You know he runs away from tough questions. That's why he didn't want to do an interview with Kim Iverson. But you know who's also unloading on Fauci, right? Who's not holding back? Ron DeSantis, who, oh boy, he really flamed Fauci. He went off.
Biden and Fauci and CDC and all these places, they wanted to turn our country into a biomedical security state. They wanted you to be limited on what you could do in society based on whether you produced proof of getting a COVID jab. They wanted people to be marginalized, not be able to travel. And we were the first state in the country to say that's not happening here, and we ban vaccine passports. You have people like Fauci saying that his lockdowns didn't cause any permanent damage to any young kids. I got news for you, it did, and we are going to reap those rewards across the whole country for years and years and years because they treated kids so poorly. And I'm just sick of seeing him. I know he says he's going to retire. Someone needs to grab that little elf and chuck him across the Potomac.
Wow, the mainstream little media is going to have a total and complete meltdown over Ron DeSantis' comments about Fauci, okay? They're going to accuse him of all types of stuff. But the reality is this. Ron DeSantis is right, and he has the right, and he should take a victory lap on this because we live in a country where the governor of Florida was ahead of the CDC, who's ran by government bureaucrats like Rochelle Walensky, whom every time she talks, she sounds like she's in over her head. She has no idea what the hell is going on. And again, people like Fauci, right, whom is trying to not take responsibility for his policies, right? But again, Ron DeSantis was ahead of them in the sense that he was the first governor to say, you know what, no more lockdowns, okay? No vaccine mandates, no mask mandates. Kids need to go back to school, in-person learning. Because he knew that once we found out that, okay, this virus is not nearly as deadly as we thought, we can live normal life. This is not the zombie apocalypse, right? There's no reason to ruin people's livelihoods and damage kids in regards to their ability to learn over this virus. Doesn't make sense. And ever since then, the narrative on the vaccine has changed, right? Because the science was shoddy, right? The narrative on mask has changed because the science was shoddy, right? The narrative on almost everything when it comes to this virus has changed from the beginning in favor of governors like Ron DeSantis who have been proven to be right and correct, okay? But again, it's just not bad enough that Fauci was the one advocating for this stuff and ruining people's livelihoods. You also have people that was censored for saying things that we now know to be correct. Okay, whether it comes to the vaccine, whether it comes to masks, big tech decided we're going to silence you if you say things that ultimately turned out to be facts, right? Factually correct. And that's the messed up part about this, man. People have been erased from the internet. Their lives have been ruined because of this pandemic and the authoritarian fascism that has come from unelected bureaucrats like Fauci and the Democrat Party going along with everything this man said like he's got. When he was flip-flopping the whole time and he just got some things just plain wrong. Now here's the thing. I try to give benefit of doubt to some of these bureaucrats when it comes to the science because I understand the virus was new. We didn't know what this virus was. We didn't know how deadly it was, right? But when it came down to it, right? Once we actually learned this stuff and the science started to become more clear, the narrative never changed. They continued to push false narratives because now it became all about money, right? It became about making big pharma rich, right? That's what it became about. And that's why, again, when the narrative on the vaccine changed, they kept pushing it, right? When the narrative on the mask changed, they kept pushing it. Why? Because you couldn't stop the money. It was a money train. Testing was money. Buying masks is money. Getting vaccinated is money. There were people getting filthy rich off the backs of taxpayers because of this. And speaking of big pharma, that's probably where Fauci's going to go. He's retiring from the government, but what he actually is doing is that he's cashing out, right? He's cashing out. He's going to retire and then he's going to get a job on the board of directors for some big pharmaceutical company like Moderna, okay, or Pfizer or something like that. That's exactly what he's going to do. Which is really the shame in all this because, some people may see this as, a victory, but let's be honest, Fauci may have more power being on the board of directors for a company like Moderna than he does right now being in the government, right? Because again, we know who has the real power in this society. It's the corporations, right? They just buy the politicians, right? You just buy them. It doesn't matter if Democrats or Republicans win. You just buy them. And that's what Big Pharma did. They bought the politicians and then they got paid. They got paid back. Again, that's the system, bruh. And all Fauci is doing is he's going to collect a check, right? He's cashing out. And that's why I love the fact that Ron DeSantis is still going after this guy because he deserves to be criticized. And there's no guarantee that the guy still won't have influence and pull because he most certainly will. He's not going away. He's just cashing out. He's going to make more money. He's going to write some books, right? That's what he's doing. All on the backs of the lives that he has ruined. The division that has been caused in this country by, again, mask mandates, vaccine mandates. We have people protesting in the streets over this stuff. Again, it's absolutely insane. Again, it's absolutely shameful. It's absolutely shameful. So that being said, we'll see what the GOP does. The ball's in their court in regard to how they're going to handle Fauci. They could just let him go away quietly and work behind the scenes in Big Pharma, or he could be exposed on the way out. Let's hope he gets exposed on the way out. I don't know if anything will necessarily be criminal per se, but I do think it's worth investigating and having a January 6th style hearing with Fauci being at the center of it in regards to some of the things that happened during this pandemic and possibly even the origins of this virus and what he knows about that, right? And I think that is necessary at this point. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.